is exactly why we have them on the show, and this is what makes them fun.
You're listening to KXVS, the voice of Stockton, 92.1 FM.
This is Barbara Barragan-Perea with Delta Flows, a radio show by the voice of Stockton and Restore the Delta. This is the weekly radio show where we discuss everything Delta related: the environment, water management, water quality, farming, history and culture, public events, recreation, Delta food, and the arts. Tune in to Delta Flows on KXVS, the voice of Stockton, streaming live on Facebook and YouTube at KXVS Radio.
KXVS, the voice of Stockton, live. The voice of Stockton at Stone Soup Studio. KXVS.org.
The views and opinions expressed in the following program do not necessarily reflect those of KXVS, the voice of Stockton, or its parents, affiliates, management, and staff. KXVS, the voice of Stockton, presents Walk the Talk with Jim T. Chong, the Wokstar.
Welcome. We are off the Miracle Mile here in Stockton, California, and this is Jim T. Chong, the Wokstar, and we have with us also somebody from KXVS, the voice of Stockton as well. He is a student. He is Timothy Hawley. All right, and we're bringing him in to bring a perspective here. We talk a lot about different issues, and today we are going to be talking about the American dream, and we also have with us Jane Taff, the Sage, as well as Chris Schuring, who is a truck driver living the American dream out there and really helping support our country by getting products where they need to be. And so as you're listening in and tuning in, I want you to think about just everything that we have to be thankful for in this country. And of course, I'm very thankful for Governor Don, who is manning the board here today. Governor Don, how are you today?
I'm doing great, Jim. Thank you. How about yourself?
Oh, excellent. And today we have a great show because we want to discuss something very significant, especially with everything going on here today in our great nation. And I just want to welcome everyone to the Voice of Stockton. Now, to get us in the mood, I want to have us all to consider, what do we think our life was meant to be? And this is a great topic about the American dream. We're going to have a discussion, and Tim will give us a good perspective from somebody that's a little bit younger, just a little bit younger than us, what we might even call the newer generation. And Jane, do you think that
Careful, Jim.
Oh, okay. Well,
I just thought you were going from younger to something else.
No. We're the more mature, so.
Yeah, there you go.
Hey, so Jane.
Governor Don, watch yourself.
Yeah, that's it. And we have
Yes,
Chris
yes,
Schuring as well. So I know that living the American dream is something very important to us, for us to consider here. And so as we approach this topic here, there's been a lot going on in the nation first, and we want to acknowledge, unfortunately, a lot of the deaths that are caused by the gunfire, and we want to just really pay respect to families that are affected directly. And here in our nation, we are given freedom, but we also have a responsibility as well. And so let's just think about the fact that we do have the freedom that we have, but also we have a responsibility along with it. And as we consider just the things that we have to be thankful for here, I want to go ahead and start with Governor Don. Governor Don, what do we have to be thankful for in this nation? What are you thankful for?
What am I thankful for? Every day, usually I try to just be thankful to be here. We take our life for granted, and we are so privileged. There is a lot of work to do to find a more perfect union. It's a never-ending job. It's a never-ending responsibility. Just like the struggle for life. Once you quit that struggle, you will lose your life. Same thing for our rights and our privileges. But sometimes we really just got to take a step back and be thankful. We live in a place where we can express ourselves. We can work with others. We could become engaged in the process. There's opportunities there for us to find. So really, every day, just like today, man, thankful to be here. I'm thankful to wake up and to face this new day, and to be able to face this day in the land of opportunity. Wow, what a blessing on top of that.
That is so true. And I love that sign just right in front of you there. It says, there's always a reason to smile.
Yep, that's
and
right.
so no matter what is happening in life, take that time to think about things to be thankful for. And like that sign says, there is always a reason to smile. Now, there's also something I'm reading here. It's on Tim's shirt here in the studio. It says, I can explain it to you, but I can't understand it for you. So what is the purpose of that shirt? Are you trying to convey a message to us here?
Well, the thing is, there's a lot of things that people will say, can you tell me what this thing means? But I can tell you exactly what it means, and I can explain it in detail, but you may or may not understand what I'm telling to you depending on your perspective.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's true.
That's right.
That's true. Through life's experiences. And we're going to have a lot to talk about here as we talk about the American dream, as we talk later about relationships, and also this thing called technology that we think might have a little bit of effect on the dynamics that we have in terms of our relationships today and connecting with other people. And so I wanted to ask you, Tim, you can start us off here. What is your American dream?
My American dream, personally, would be to have a good job to where I can pay my bills, find somebody to be with, and I mean, it's cliche now, but the little white picket fence, the peaceful home environment, a lot of people take that for granted nowadays. Everybody's lives are so chaotic that you forget to think that, those moments of quiet with your loved ones, with your friends, with your family, those are moments you need to cherish. And a lot of people don't.
That's very profound. That's very good as well. Now, you represent the under 30 crowd. We'll just say we represent the over 30 crowd. Not too much over. But Jane, in terms of the American dream, what do you think of when you think of your American dream?
Well, it's so funny, Jim, because I was thinking Tim is representing the over 30 crowd. That's very mature thinking, Tim. So I appreciate that you said that your American dream is a good job, a great relationship, and a peaceful home environment. I think there's something to that seems to hearken to a bygone time. Yet so many of our younger people, that's what they desire, and they can't articulate it as succinctly as you just did. But that is my American dream, with the addition that I'm an entrepreneur and I work with entrepreneurs. The fact that I can fulfill my passion in this great place called the United States because I can set up a business is my American dream, and I'm very much enjoying supporting other people in their entrepreneurial dreams.
I love the things you have a chance to share. We call her Jane Taff the Sage because she's very wise, yes. Or she would lead us to believe that. But I'll
which would
tell
be
you,
very wise of her to do.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. But I really think this is a great thing to do, to consider what our personal American dream is. Chris Schuring, you're out there driving trucks. I think the truck is the backbone of getting our products to where they need to go. Chris, what is your American dream?
Well, I'm glad you asked. I was sitting here listening and thinking, and Tim, great words of wisdom. Jane, a nice follow on. I, too, am an entrepreneur, and so I enjoy that aspect of this country. And as I drive around this country and I go through many towns, I enjoy and look forward to the American dream of freedom of movement and the freedom of being able to do as we wish in the context of helping our communities and being able to help one another. And really, the American dream for me is an adventure. I look forward to the adventure of every day. And as that adventure unfolds, I really enjoy meeting new and different people, and find that at the end of the day, we all have the same things in desires. We all want a stable house. We want a roof over our heads. and we want food in our bellies, and we want safe and secure families. And so, Tim and Jane, you kind of started the ball rolling, but basically I have the same dream, and I look forward to fulfilling that every day on the adventure that I lead.
I appreciate you sharing that. And, there are some different things that can affect our perspectives. But before we get into all that, Governor Don, what would you say your American dream is?
Wow. I got 7 kids.
You're living the American dream.
So part of my dream is not necessarily a dream deferred, but a dream expanded. Really, once I became a parent, my whole mind changed, and those of us that are decent parents, that's what happens, And so, of course, my American dream is really for a better world for them. I believe that yes, we are in some tough times, and there are a lot of issues, a lot of obstacles to overcome, a lot of problems to solve. But we're also in a wonderful opportunity where we have access to technology and communication and information and knowledge. And so my American dream is to be a part of that, to be a part of making this place better, to leave it a better place than we found it, and to secure a safe and nurturing and progressive future for my young people.
This is a really great question for myself, because as I talk to different people, of course, age can bring about some different ideas of what the American dream is for people, and even culture as well. And for myself, I view the American dream as making the most impact I can make and do my part to make this a wonderful world. That's been my theme this year. But really using my life to be able to help create positive change wherever I go. And that may sound a little bit euphemistic, but I think of the practical things that we can do as well to bring all that about, And we have a lot of rights here in terms of our country, and we have a lot of opportunity as well, right? And Jay, when you think about opportunities here in America, what comes to mind for you?
Well, we have every opportunity you can possibly think of. As an entrepreneur working with entrepreneurs, I see that every single day of my life. There is absolutely no limit. And so when you ask that, gosh, we could spend all day talking about different industries and yet still not barely scratch the surface on what opportunities are available, because anything you can think of, conceive, and create is an opportunity waiting for you to make money from. And we can see that through the various entities on the internet, and how you can be an obscure little shop that sells crochet needles only for certain types of yarn, and you will be thriving. And that is really how amazing the United States and opportunity is that you can be that specialized little guy and still live a great life and make money from that. So it's unlimited, really. You're only limited by your level of wanting to go for it.
I think about just the different opportunities that we do have, and I want to ask you, Tim, do you know what a tetherball is?
Yes.
You still know what a tetherball is, right?
Yes, I put as a child, I was playing tetherball with a friend, and I had the unfortunate perspective of having it come around and smack me in the face.
Oh, okay. So you remember that? Do you guys still play dodgeball? Do you remember dodgeball? You remember that game?
I also play.
Illegal in the schools now, Jim.
Oh, is it?
Wow!
Wow! I guess so much for that American dream. I thought as a senior we'd be starting to play dodgeball, but
yeah, I played tetherball as a kid.
Got to use virtual dodgeballs now.
As a kid, I played tetherball, dodgeball. Before they started making like intricate games for children, I was part of the generation where you would take a ball, throw it against a wall, and then you guys would play handball. You'd slap it on a wall and see who missed.
I remember those days, and that's kind of what we grew up with, and a lot of things today is that kind of are you accustomed to playing those actual things or seeing kids play that?
I would like to see more kids being active, but it's a lot different now. Cell phones are a lot more accessible. Tablets and cell phones are cheaper. So, I mean, kids nowadays, by the time they're 2 or 3, they've had a cell phone or a tablet in their hand, and they already know how to turn it on, turn it off, get to whatever game they want to play.
Yeah. Well, it's incredible. We have a lot of opportunity. And, Jane, you were making a comment how actually dodgeball is actually illegal now.
Practically illegal, because there's so many schools that are afraid of being sued for their children getting hurt at the school, or by parents whose child gets hurt at the school. Our particular school in my school district has a no running policy. Now, can you imagine children being in school 6 to 8 hours a day without any opportunity to run off their energy, sitting at a desk 6 to 8 hours a day and having zero opportunity to run off their energy in this thing we called recess when we were kids?
Well, this
and is... I think it's really, really distressing, because a child's physiology requires movement. I mean, every person's physiology requires movement, but especially when you're a child and you have all that energy pent up energy from being, sitting down and listening for hours on end.
This is very interesting, because we grew up at a time where everyone went outside to play. I still remember playing hide and go seek and do some crazy things. I mean, we were allowed to run. That was okay to do in school, and a lot of active things. But yet, this thing called technology has emerged, and it's interesting our perspective on a lot of things. I mean, we're talking about gun control versus dodgeball. It's kind of interesting how we can have different perspectives depending on where we land on certain things, right? And as we grow up here in the States, things do change, and technology is a part of it. But I want to go ahead and jump right into the fact that we have opportunities here to really connect and engage with each other, and whether it be through dating, just friendships, having a cup of coffee. And we want to talk about just how technology has affected the relationships that we have. Jane, I know you have some thoughts on that as well, but I wanted to have us just consider, are we the type of people that are able to sit around a table and just have a meal together with the family, just without any technology? Are we able to just engage people when we see them just on the street, just shake their hand and just really have a great conversation, or enjoy a great movie without technology? Technology is everywhere, and let's go ahead and have a discussion about how that really has affected the dynamics of our relationships here. So, Jane, why don't you go ahead and start us off? I know you have some thoughts about this.
Absolutely, and it was so funny as we were setting up the show today how you and I had a good little chuckle about technology and relationships, because you would think that technology has aided relationships. You talk about Facebook reconnects with people from high school. I know that's been a great boon for me, having moved from the city where I grew up, being able to reconnect with elementary, high school individuals, and that's been so much fun. And really, I think we're rather than just technology, let's talk about skills. What skills does it take to have healthy relationships? Number one is the skill of communication. Communication includes the transfer of my feelings to you via verbal interaction. Now, is that just words? Words and talking do not equal communication, just like Tim's great shirt. I can explain it to you using words, but I can't understand it for you, which is awesome. I love the happenstance of you wearing that shirt, Tim, because this is exactly what we're talking about. technology does not aid the skill of communication, because what have we done with our technology? We have created verbal shorthand.
Yes.
And emoticons. You cannot accurately display an emotion through an emoticon or even the longest string of words. In the same way, a look, a touch can convey that same emotion live and in person with skin on.
Yes.
And I think our technology brings us such a distance from understanding that I'm a human being, but I forget sometimes that I'm communicating thoughts to another human being if technology is so much a part of my world that it's one-sided. Again, communication happens not only because I'm using words, but I'm also reflecting and inferring and picking up signs and body language that helps fill out and round out the true fullness of communication. Now, the words we use are only less than 30% of full communication. Body language and how we use our words is the balance of communication. It's been studied over and over again since the 60s. And technology robs us of the rest of what constitutes communication. So that's communication as far as relationships go.
You know, let me ask here. I want to go ahead and just get your perspective, Tim, just in terms of how technology, she's saying, can kind of get the message across, but that whole thing about really conveying really what the message is, body language, a lot of the interaction has a lot to do with communicating.
Yes.
So what are your thoughts from your perspective?
Part of my childhood, at least until high school, was cell phones weren't really too prevalent. I mean, they were there, but they weren't as prevalent as they are now. So I grew up all the way until high school learning how to communicate with your body and actually using facial expressions and things like that. And then after my sophomore year, technology just, I feel like it's robbed a lot of my generation of the skill, because when you try and talk to them, they don't really know how to communicate well. They don't know how to read your body language. And then unfortunately, that unfortunate lack of skill also carries not in just relationships, but also off into the real world, where customer service based jobs where you need to know how to react and how to respond and things like that. And a lot of my generation doesn't have the skills that your generation and previous generations had when it came to customer service and then also relationships, being able to accurately convey your feelings.
Yeah. That is so true. And, I think about the cell phones today, we're able to definitely get a message across really quickly and communicate things really quickly, but so many things can be misinterpreted from
in the translation.
Yeah, in the translation, for sure. Capital letters can be viewed as shouting, right?
Yes.
And just a statement without the body language, it can mean something else. And that's where I believe also people can get their feelings hurt through that communication.
Oh, yeah, because
taken wrong. And
yeah, because when you communicate with somebody, like, somebody can tell you something that hurts you, and they can say, like, I'm sorry I said that, are you okay? And you can text back, yeah, I'm okay, with a smiley face. Yep. But if they're there in person and they're looking at you, they can read, and they know how to read body language, they'll be able to read that, no, it wasn't okay.
Yeah. Well, this is an important thing to consider with technology, because we use technology so much. Here in the studio, we have technology as well. Governor Don, you have, did you say 20 kids? No, 7 kids, right?
7. Well, with technology, I could have 20.
That's true. That's a whole other scientific show. But how do you regulate, like, the cell phones
She's
and
boycotting
stuff too?
Having new kids. Well, I tell you, It's interesting. It's interesting because we gain things and we lose things. You guys were talking about the good old days. I remember those good old days too. Yeah, where we were left home by ourselves. Where kids got abducted and nobody knew about it for 20 years. Where you kept missing your appointment because you needed to adjust, and you couldn't communicate with the person, and you're checking your pager and you're like, what does these numbers mean? I forgot what that code meant. I think it means that they're going to be early, or is it late? I don't know. So there's things we gain and things we lose, and I think it's important. With like Dr. Like Jane was saying, the sage, guru.
Jane, you've been elevated education-wise.
The doctor of wisdom. But the point is that we are always building bridges, and we're always making adjustments, and it's like an ebb and flow. So we learn things, and we learn sometimes we learn what not to do with them after we've done those things that we shouldn't do with our new technology. And so this is just kind of an ever-changing thing. But I think as long as we are actually communicating, we can be dishonest with our facial gestures, just like we can be dishonest with our emojis. But the fact that they produce hundreds of emojis every year or two illustrates that it is important to add more than just the letters. We still only got 26 letters in the alphabet, or is it? Wait, 26, right? I don't know. There's no more. There's no more extra. But I don't know. I think they just added 126 emojis. Because the nuances of communication are easy to misinterpret. So even with technology, that's understood that we need to have more clarity in our visual communication.
You're out there in the truck. I don't know if you have much chance to communicate with people, Chris, as you're driving. So what are your thoughts about technology and communication? And I remember the days, we talked about the CB being used. You remember those days, of course?
That's today.
Tim, do you know what a CB is?
Yes.
Okay. So what are your thoughts about the current technology and communication, how it affects us?
Well, I agree with everything everybody said, and then also it's interesting that in this age of technology, as a truck driver, it's really important to have technology. Otherwise, I'd have to have $50 worth of quarters or nickels or dimes in my pocket to be able to stop at a payphone, which they don't exist anymore, and be able to communicate with my family and friends, and to do this show. I'm currently in Baker City, Oregon, parked on the side of the highway. That couldn't have happened without technology. And I'm also watching you on Facebook, although there's a bit of a delay. It's good to see your face.
Yeah, but pretend like it's an Asian show, so the lips don't naturally sync. But good enough. This is the American dream here, to be on TV.
Yeah, but it's technology is important, but I think it's misused in some cases. I know that when I'm home on the weekends and I have dinner with my family, my 3 grandkids and wife and daughter, no technology is allowed at the table. We don't have technology at the table, and we talk with each other and try to build conversations and those kind of things. And I think that's important for families to do, to build on the craft of communication, because it will help them in the future in jobs, in life, in society, to be able to communicate with others effectively and with compassion. And I think we've lost some of that compassion.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's true. I remember there was that 1984. Remember that book that came out. They tried to remove emotion. It was basically instead of being happy, I think it was like happy plus. If you're really happy, you just added pluses behind it. Happy plus or happy. Those are different levels. So they tried to remove emotion, so there would be less, less of a chance for revolution. So just to hinder the passion there. But I think technology, to some degree, has given us a lot of just another mediums, but a lot of ways to express ourselves more quickly. But whether it's effective, we have to determine at what level we should use technology. And I know right now it's almost Simon Sinek says it's like it is an addiction, actually. It does exactly the same thing that other things do in terms of activating the endorphins and really making you happy. And there's a lot of things that technology does to give us immediate gratification, and so we can actually, if we're not happy, on one of his talks, he talks about you just take out your phone and say hi, right?
Yeah.
And when people reply, all of a sudden you're happy again because it raises your level of happiness. It activates something in your brain.
Dopamine.
Make you happy. Yeah, the dopamines. And it's very interesting just to see how we have immediate gratification in everything we do. And yet that's not always a good thing because now the kids, I would say people even younger than you, Tim, right now they expect things like now.
Yes.
And Jane, I know you were going to bring up another point as well. Jane, if you can go ahead and continue along those thoughts.
Yeah, absolutely. And to your point, because it addresses or triggers the pleasure sensors of our brain, guess what's happening to our kids? We have higher rates of depression now because children don't understand how to regulate this dopamine hit called your cell phone, nor do they know that this is actually, they do know this, and this is what's causing the depression, that it's based on nothing.
Yeah.
And so it brings up despair.
Wait, can you explain that a little bit? It brings up nothing. What do you mean by that?
Sure. It's based on, I sent out a message or a funny cat video or an emoticon or a something, a quote. And people are saying like on Facebook, let's say, or they're hitting the heart button on Instagram, whatever
Right.
your acknowledgement tool is.
Right.
But it's based on nothing because what did those people do but simply do what you do with other people is click.
And then there's
you may not have thought about that.
Yeah.
You may not have had an emotional reaction or connection to that message. All you did was click. Click is devoid of any emotion, response, or conversation. Zero depth. And what children are learning all too early is, yes, this creates a dopamine hit for me. And then as I think about it, but it means nothing because when I do it to other people, for me, it means nothing. Yeah. And so this perpetual nothing interaction when children and people are relational creatures, we're made for depth. We're made for interaction. And when that interaction stays on the superficial, we get we get depressed.
And then
because we crave depth, the depth of relationship. We crave real touch. There was a study on touching babies. If babies are left alone in their cribs, changed, fed, things of that nature, but not cuddled, swaddled, soothed, talked to, touched constantly, they tend to lose weight and get sick. And if not touched long enough, they die.
Yep.
And this is the soul of the human condition right now with too much technology. Now, Jim and I both know that technology is very important, but it is a tool. It's not everything. It's a tool.
Yeah.
And yes, I've gone back to my house for my phone before, but because I need the tool, not because I think it's my everything. I've had my children fight me emotionally about getting their phones taken away. When I remind them, look up. You have plenty of interaction. I only took one tool away from you.
Right.
If you are this despondent over that removal, I think you have to re-examine where all of your focus is going.
Yeah, and
the
phone has truly become a commodity. Tim, I know you wanted to say something here.
Oh, I was just going to say to her point earlier, there's also the adverse effect of when you do post a picture or something like that and nobody likes it or nobody hearts it. There's the realization that there's some realization that you feel like others may not care at all.
Nobody cares because they didn't like a picture.
Exactly.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
What-
there's too much emphasis on the thumbs up, the heart, the ping, the anything.
Yeah.
Too much emphasis on that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's true. It's so true, and we can find our self-esteem being reflected on, you know, how many likes we get, and it's interesting how it has really changed the way we look at even dynamics of a relationship. I mean, heaven forbid there is this thing if it is already liked, if you already like somebody, you hit that button. What happens, Jane?
Nothing.
Yeah, you unlike it. You unlike them, or if you're a friend of theirs and you hit it and you unfriend them. Oh my gosh!
Oh no, yes.
That has sent ripples in terms of just the implications of that, and so I'm just really shocked at how much, when I think about it, how much technology really can consume us. And just as a little test for ourselves, you know, it's kind of awkward because even without the phone, just leaving it in the car, I can feel a little awkward.
Yes.
Yeah. And I could feel almost, it's this weird sensation of incomplete. You know?
I feel like the phone must be attached to your hip. Like it must be in your pocket. It must be somewhere with you. And the other thing with cell phones that too many people aren't aware of is they have blue screen technology. So when it's hard for you to sleep at night, well, it's because you're turning on your phone, looking at the screen, and the blue screen technology is pulling you in and waking you up slowly.
Oh,
so,
I didn't know that.
So literally, you're almost dead asleep, and then you go, oh, wait, but I looked at my phone. Now I'm awake. Now I've got to do stuff on my phone. So when you're getting ready to go to bed, you take your phone, put it on your nightstand, put it on the charger, and you put it a good distance away so that if you reach over for it, you don't go, oh, well, now I'm awake.
Yeah. Well, you know, we have to think about technology that's around us. We're using the cell phone because obviously that's the thing that we can relate to the most. We call things a social network, but yet are they making us antisocial? Because we no longer have to interact with the people that are around us anymore. All we have to do is pick up our phone and we get a false sense of a relationship, I would say. You're on the road. Again, you're on the road a lot, Chris.
Yep.
You have your phone. Do you call? I'm assuming you call your wife quite a bit while on the road. Is that correct?
Yeah, I do. I put in about 150,000 miles every year on the roads of this country, and really, I call my wife at least once, maybe twice a day. She's probably the person I call the most for a lot of reasons. One is to stay connected, to find out what's going on at home, but also the technology allows her to know where I'm at. In case there's something that comes up, she can check the weather for me and those kinds of things, or if there happens to be an accident or something, she knows what part of the country I'm at so that we're not completely disconnected. So it's a great technology. We try not to overuse it, but that's kind of how we use it when I'm on the road.
Yeah, well, think about how you're using technology. I'm talking about the people that are listening here, because the cell phone is definitely a major convenience, but I think it's created habits for us that could be unhealthy relationally. And the final thing I want to address is this whole aspect of just even the dating. Being newly single. You see the world and a whole different thing. You're single, right, as well. And Jane, you've been there and you found the love of your life again. But I wanted to just open this up and just talk about just how this even affects our relationships, with the other gender, whether it be a romantic relationship, a friendship with the opposite sex, or even just with a friend. Yeah. I see people in Panera Bread and different places there where you pretty much see most of the people have a phone or something, talking to somebody, even though the person is just another person's right across from them that they probably should be spending a little bit more time with. How do you feel technology affects specifically just the relationship amongst the different sexes? Jane?
Yeah.
Yeah,
No,
you're up, Jane.
Oh, no, go ahead, Chris. Go ahead, Chris.
I was going to say that, I've been married. I just celebrated my 36th wedding anniversary, so it's been a long time since I've been single. But the way it affects our relationship is not only by being able to stay connected, But, we can do video conferencing and those kinds of things back and forth. But I think on the flip side of that, we have to be careful, and I have to be careful, because it also opens the floodgates for, shall I just say, people that I don't really want to talk to or should not talk to or should not see pictures and or videos of. And so that's a challenge that we all face, as the technology also opens up a door in our relationships to be tempted, if you will, or to be distracted by things that take us away from our relationships.
Yeah.
So we need to kind of balance the two and make sure that we filter it to the point where we can build relationships and not tear them down. And that's one of the challenges we have on the road, is that we are alone a lot, which means we are open to that door being open. So I always caution people about that. So
Jane,
that's kind of what I have to say about that.
Yeah. Thank you for your thoughts there. Jane, what do you have to say about this? I know you do a lot with relationships.
I absolutely agree with what Chris just mentioned, that technology is a double-edged sword. That scenario I told you, I was so delighted to connect with former classmates in elementary and high school. Stalking is on the rise. And, inappropriate ways of reaching out to people where all your controls are lost because you're doing it kind of in secret. And that's not healthy for relationships, and it's not healthy for individuals. I just really want to emphasize that this is a tool, and when we make it the main thing, for instance, whatever is going on in your relationship, you have a good relationship, as I do with my husband, it magnifies the good relationship. So we get to check in with each other and send loving texts to one another. That assists our relationship. But if we were not in a good relationship, now we'd be sending each other nasty missives. And I know that people can do that too, and it can be a constant in the negative. And that's horrible. You can harass people because you simply can, and you're in their pocket. And really, again, it's a tool, and as with any tool, we can misuse it. A hammer can be used to build, and it can be used to destroy. And I see the phone as a hammer.
Yeah, and
Agreed.
For somebody of me and Jim's perspective, being single, technology makes it somewhat hard, because in the older days, when you would want to meet up with somebody, you would meet up in person and talk in person and go to a coffee or something like that. But nowadays, people will be like, well, before I see you in person, I want to text you and talk to you over the phone and get to know you over the phone before I get to know you in person. But getting to know somebody in person and getting to know somebody over the phone are two different animals.
I'm going to have to see your digital footprint here before I pursue this conversation.
And you want to stalk them online and see what their overall persona is.
Well, you got to see how many likes they got.
Yeah, that's right. That's the most important thing. How many likes they have achieved,
Are they likable? I mean, how will you know without going online?
Yeah. It opens up a good opportunity to get to know people a little bit before maybe meeting them. But also, I want to mention as well, there's a lot of things you learn character-wise, just physiologically, when you have to go through the struggle of being around somebody, facing a little bit of rejection once in a while, learning how to just cope with life. I believe that's why a lot of people are wrestling with depression and just anger, and they don't know how to deal with this emotion. So
they're using the wrong tool. Or they're using the tool in an improper way. We might have a hammer, but you've seen people try to hammer a nail with a wrench.
That was me.
That was you. We got a screwdriver, but maybe that butter knife, is what we're using, and
that was
it's
it's
like what Jane says. These are tools, and when used properly, they could be so effective and so gratifying and so rewarding. But when we use them as a crutch, and that means we're neglecting some other part of our life.
Yeah. Well, I want to conclude just by making a statement here. As we go about using our technology, let's think about the things that we have to gain for them. Think about things we have to be thankful for, but also think about wherever we can create that human interaction, definitely take that opportunity, because those skills are so very important to be able to interact with people, and also just for your own development. With children, oh boy, it's really tough to see these young children on video games and not playing with each other, because they're not really being able to develop the skills they need to develop. Just that they're going to use later in life. Just any final thoughts, Jane? One quick thought.
Really, remember, it's a tool. It's not your everything. It's not the center of your world. The person right in front of you is the most important person in the moment.
Absolutely. What about for you, Chris? One quick thought.
Well, and remember that technology isn't just your phone. It's your computer. It's other things that distract you in your life. And they are tools. They're tools to make our lives easier. But we need to also harken back to the one-on-one human touch aspect of our lives and communication in order for us to have a rich and living life in the American dream.
That's right. And what about you, Timothy?
I would advise both viewers and everybody who is here to leave a positive mark on somebody every day.
Oh, that's good. And Governor Don?
Love is the answer. So with that mentality and that perspective, we are always going to find a way, because we have the right motivation.
Yeah, that's right. And, that song does start out, name your price, 2 tickets to paradise, right? I can't take it anymore, And, it does say, the chorus says, love is the answer. And truly, I want us to think about the American dream that we all have within us, the freedoms that we have. We have the freedom to use technology pretty much however we choose to. But remember, just because you have access doesn't mean it's always good. But I want you to think about the possibilities here in America. In the mindset of success, they say that people that are good, they usually talk about people. People that are great usually talk about events, and people that excel, just really with that right mindset to be successful, they talk about the difference they can make in people's lives. Let's put away our technology. Let's remember we are the ones that make things happen. Personally, this is Jim T. Chong, the Wokstar, and I am here with
Timothy Hawley.
And you've been listening to Walk the Talk on KXVS, the voice of Stockton. Have a great one. Bye-bye.
Have a great one.